Time now for Entre Nous. Today we're going to be focusing on the world's most livable cities. Lifestyle magazine Monocle has just released its Quality of Life survey, and the ranking isn't based on hard data but on how cities actually feel to live in. Securing the top spot is the Japanese capital, followed by Copenhagen, Lisbon, Vienna, and Sydney. Paris coming in at number 8. To talk more about the ranking, we can bring in Monocle Editor Andrew Tuck. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. Tokyo has reclaimed the number 1 spot. What set the city apart from others?
Well, look, if you look at the scale of it as a metropolis, a vast, vast city, yet it has an incredibly low crime rate. It's a city where literally if you forget your passport in a taxi, you're going to get it back. If you leave your wallet in a restaurant, you're going to get it back. The crime rate, the murder rates are super low. And I think this sense of caring about the communities you live in is palpable. So if you go to a neighborhood, shopkeepers come out and they help clean the street every day. Kids take care of the neighborhoods they live in. And you see patrols of people going around tidying streets. So this sense of community is a really powerful force for good in Tokyo as well. So we saw lots of things. Plus, it's a city where you can have fun. And I think that the important thing about this survey, unlike other quality of life surveys, is we're not just looking at ambulance response time or how quickly the police will come if there's a crime. We're also looking, can you get a drink late at night? Can you still go to a nightclub? Do young people, are they still given permission to have fun in their city?
Because I wanted to ask you about your ranking versus other rankings of livability indexes. What sets Monocle's apart?
It's very good. That's what sets it apart. No, in all honesty, look at those other rankings. And what are they ranking? They're ranking really, often they're aimed at expats. They're aimed at people moving cities. So it's all about the quality of private education, or it's about
safety and things like that.
Yeah, well,
no?
Safety is important, and let's not forget that. But the safety question comes with some caveats. You can give away all of your freedoms for pure safety, but most people like a little bit of joy and fun. So I'd say that when we started doing this survey, it's 20 years now that we've been doing this. And the reason we started was because we looked at those other surveys and we looked at our readers and our listeners and we thought, these surveys don't respond to their needs. These are people who love living in cities. Yes, they may have kids and they've probably got a job to go to. But in the evening, they want to go out and have fun. They want good culture. They want to live in a street that's clean and safe, as you say. But at the weekends, they also want to be able to go to a park. Is there great green space? Are people really ambitious about the projects in their city? And that's why we came up with this survey.
Let's talk about Paris, because Paris comes in at number 8. You know this, that last week we had a horrible heat wave in this city, which doesn't have a whole lot of air conditioning facilities. If we were to think about it, yes, cinemas are air conditioned, but if we're going to keep seeing these prolonged heat waves coming year in and year out, and the city's relationship with air conditioning doesn't change, will Paris continue to be this attractive?
Well, look, there's a couple of interesting things here. First of all, this debate about AC. When you see your grandparents dying because there's no aircon in their apartment building, or the apartment building is so old that it was never really designed for these temperatures, then I think we need to take this debate away from being a political football and say, look, you need aircon. But the interesting thing is, and it has changed a lot in Paris, but when you look at, for example, green space, so I think roughly about 20% of Paris, 15 to 20% is green space. You look at a city like Munich, 50%. Now, they've got tree canopy wherever you can go. You can walk along most streets and be under shade. So I think the heat question is not just a question of AC. It's a question of how we use nature, how we restrict traffic in certain areas, how we add shade and coolness to our streets, because those are the things that are going to fix it in the long term.
Normally, when we see these sorts of rankings come out, London features, and I was surprised to see the British capital missing from your ranking. What, in your opinion, is London getting wrong?
Well, let's just say this is a ranking, and you said it's not based on facts. There is quite a lot of data behind this. So it's data and it's lived experience of people in those cities. But when it comes to some of my favourite cities, for example, Beirut's not on there, Sao Paulo's not on there, cities which I think are amazing. London has a couple of tricky issues. We are really not keeping up in London with the pace of building for public housing, for example. There's so many people who are in desperate need of housing. And people who live in the city, who maybe even a generation ago would have lived quite centrally, being pushed further and further out. So there's a housing crisis, and the city, the councils are not building fast enough, and we do have a street crime issue. Now, you have some of that here in Paris and in most big cities, but in London, we still have, even though it's being addressed in some ways, an alarming rate of street crime, especially phone theft. And I think the impact of that is not just having your phone stolen, is for people who don't have their phone stolen, is it begins to make you adapt your behavior. So you think, oh, maybe I won't take my phone out, maybe I won't lock my bike on the street. So it curtails your ability to enjoy a city.
And very briefly, I see that we have 2 Australian cities in this ranking, but only 1 North American city. What is North America getting wrong?
Again, amazing American cities, and if you live in a nice neighborhood, great. Cities like Chicago, LA still have huge problems with crime in many of their neighborhoods. And I think the other problem is the lack of a social net to catch people as they fall means that in a city like Los Angeles, an amazing city in many ways, the homelessness crisis is extraordinary. And when you go there and when you go downtown and you see people living out on the streets in such numbers, it's very hard for us to argue that quality of life is being delivered not just for one demographic, but for an entire city.
Andrew, thank you for coming in and speaking to us about Monocle's ranking. I know it can rub people the wrong way, but it did start off a debate in the newsroom here with my colleagues. So it's very interesting to see how you guys have put this together. So thank you for coming in.
That's the point.
That's the point. Thank you. And don't forget, you can check out other editions of Entre Nous on our website, france24.com. More news coming up. Stay with us.